Okay, I'm going live. This is the first time I've ever done a live stream on YouTube. So let's hope that it's not. Let's hope that it's not like my live streams on TikTok, where I get booted off almost instantly. Um, I've got exactly 0 people watching, which I suppose is to be expected since I've never actually done a live stream before, and I only have 52 followers. So let's see. Just waiting for somebody to be on here because I want to talk about the banking crisis. I want to talk about what's going on with banking in general. Obviously, a lot of people are concerned with what's happening, as it should be. Interesting. I've got 110,000 followers on TikTok, and I do a live stream and immediately get hundreds of people on there. So it's kind of odd to go live and look over and see participants 0. But it is what it is. You got to start somewhere, right? I think once I start talking about what's going on and people realize that you can be big and corn-fed and still understand the markets really well, it's because I've been doing them for a long time. But that's one of those things where you get to understand things after a while. It's just basically repetition. And I've been through this, and I've done this, and I've watched this happen over and over again. This is not new, folks. This is not something that is oh, hey, well, the banks are failing. What could possibly cause that? Well, it's the fact that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that because they paid for the government to be theirs, that the government will make sure that it does whatever is necessary to bail them out, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You don't, somebody told me a long time ago, I'm going to turn this light on, see if this helps a little bit. Oh, that does help. Look at that. Ooh, now I'm shiny. You can really see the bags under my eyes. But what do you expect? It's right now, because I'm in the silver business, and no, I'm not going to try and sell you silver. If you understand what silver is, you understand what it does, then I don't have to sell it to you. But if you do want to buy it anyway, you can call me. However, it's one of these things where the bankers, they know the old adage. A good politician is one who stays bought. I know that sounds incredibly cynical, but the reality is it's absolutely true. Lobbyists get what they want approximately 80% of the time, 87% actually, according to lobbying firms. When they want the regulations pushed through or broken down, they get it. The other 13% is what constituents get when they actually ask the people they put in office to do something for them. We get what we want approximately 13% of the time. That's sad. It's illegal, but we keep putting up with it, so that's what we're getting. Anyway, so I'm going to make this video, obviously, because I've only got 52 subs, and I don't see why YouTube would push me out to the masses yet. Let's just do this. Let's just say that I understand what's going on with the banks. Okay. SVB didn't collapse because it was a bad bank. SVB collapsed because the United States government forced it to collapse. This is when Chairman Powell, Jerome Powell, who is not an economist at all. Not that would help, because Janet Yellen's an economist, and she literally said about a year ago that she just didn't comprehend the seriousness of the inflation risk. But if you go on my TikTok, you can go back 3 years to 2020 when we first started the stimmies, and I said this will lead to massive inflation. And at the time, the chairman of the Federal Reserve and the chairman of the Treasury said, no, absolutely not. And then they said, well, maybe it's temporary. And I said, no, it's not temporary. It's big and it's permanent. Well, then they switched it from temporary to broadening 8 months after I said they should. So in 2021, I said that at the very end of the year, I said, get out of the stock market now. They finally began to raise rates. The market's not going to take this. Man, look what happened. The NASDAQ lost 35%. The other thing that happened was because of the stimmies, banks got a lot of money. Whenever they get money, they have to buy assets to cover what they put on their books as liabilities. So they went out and they bought a bunch of assets. They bought the smartest asset you can buy, theoretically, which is a government bond. And they were paying about 2%. So they were paying about 1% on their money markets. Okay, about half of what they were making. It's not great, but it is what it is. Then all of a sudden, the Fed started raising rates so rapidly that bonds got to a point where they were paying now almost 4%. Well, anybody who's got money in a money market can just pull it directly out and buy the bond themselves. And then instead of getting 1%, they get 4%. Why wouldn't you? So that's what happened. Well, now that people are pulling money out, they have to get rid of these bonds that they bought as assets because now they're asset heavy. So they go to sell them. Well, who wants to buy a bond that pays 2% when I can buy a bond that pays almost 4%, almost twice as much? So nobody wants the bonds. So what do? Well, you discount the bonds. You do what's called taking a haircut. You say, hey, look, I've got a bond that pays 2%. Let's say it's $100,000, but I'll discount it by 30%. So right off the top, if it's $100,000 in bonds, then you're knocking 30% off of what you paid for it. So now they're getting the 30% discount plus 2% a year. Okay, so now their 10-year bond is worth buying, except you have to show a 30% loss. That's a huge loss if you bought, $100 billion of bonds. So you can't do that. It simply means that you don't have the money to pay back the people who are now trying to withdraw money. Because remember, you're also loaning this stuff out. So now your bank's insolvent. And why? Because the Fed raised rates so fast. The same Federal Reserve Bank that, if I'm not mistaken, was put into place in 1918 to protect the banking system and protect the value of the US dollar. And since it was enacted in 1918, the US dollar has lost 96% of its buying power. So as you can see, this ain't real, folks. None of this is. And the government is what's causing the collapse. And now people are running away from small banks because they don't think there's enough money there. And they're putting them all in big banks, which is going to create an even bigger problem. The big banks are going to thrive and all the small and medium-sized banks are going to go out of business. But the biggest problem is you say, well, okay, but hey, that's the way capitalism works. And besides, my money's insured by the FDIC. The FDIC insures $9 trillion in accounts. It has $126 billion, in assets. Those two numbers don't match up. That means they've got about 1% of what they need to pay off all of these. I mean, not everybody's going to ask for their FDI insured money. But if they do, only 1 out of every 100 people will get their money. You're talking about trillions of dollars. So if the government wants to cover that, or even a quarter of that, they're going to have to print trillions of dollars. Now, keep in mind, we're tightening right now. We're not increasing the money flow. We're reducing it on purpose to drive the country into a recession. Well, that's just sad, because if you drive the economy into a recession, everybody loses their job. Well, that's just tough luck. The rich just keep getting richer. But wait, if you create trillions of dollars to save the banks or to bail them out or to make sure everybody gets their money so there isn't some kind of insane bank run and systemic collapse, that's inflationary as hell. We're already dealing with inflation. They're already chasing inflation right now and not doing a very good job of it, apparently, because it keeps going up. This is the proverbial rock in a hard place. All I can tell you is that, you can run to the bank and get your $25,000 out or whatever it is, but it's not going to help. What you need are assets that are going to increase in value. And clearly, now that banks aren't loaning money, who's going to be buying houses? And banks have made it very clear that they are very interested in tightening up the amount of money they loan out. They just don't have as much. That's a unique situation right there, because that means the housing market's going to collapse. So as far as assets, precious metals are your best bet as far as safety. Now, will you make a fortune? Probably not. Will you at least retain the value of your dollars so that when you sell it, you come out with whatever it was that you put into it? Because keep in mind, if there's inflation of 30%, and trust me, that's possible. If there's inflation of 30%, that means that 2 years from now, you've lost 60%. So if you have $100,000, it only buys what $40,000 buys today. That sucks. That's not good. But if you buy metals and the metals go up in relation to all of the other commodities because of inflation, when you sell them, your perception is, hey, I made 60 grand on my 100,000, but you didn't really. What you ended up doing is you ended up coming out far enough ahead that you still have the buying power of 100,000 when everybody else has a buying power of 60. That's what it boils down to. Basically, what you're saying is, you're saying, hey, love your system, government, love your system, Federal Reserve. Going to sidestep it for the time being. I'm gonna step out of the system here. I'm going to walk around this dumpster fire you call a recession, and I'll see you on the other side. To me, that's just good math. Anyway, I still have 0 people on my live stream. So this time I'm going to go do my live stream on Big and Corn Fed on TikTok, because I always get lots of people on there. Unfortunately, I get booted off of there very quickly. So we'll see how long that lasts.